Hey, hey, you know what time it is. Woo! Get into it! Get into it! Yes! Hello, lovelies. How we doing today? Welcome back for Storytime with Chris. Yes, my hair is wrapped down because I'm going to the gym after this, so pardon me. But I hope everybody is having a lovely afternoon. Yes, there we go. That's better. So, as I always say, you don't have to watch these videos when they go live. You're more than welcome to watch them in your downtime, nap time, max or relax and chillax and nap time, in between time, study time, break time, anytime you want to hear a highly animated voice bring you wonderful, magical stories of fantasy, science fiction, adventure, and many, many more in between. So, we have one more chapter after this one, and we are done with the third book in the Prydain Chronicles by Lloyd Alexander. And we will begin the fourth book next week, which is Taran the Wanderer. Super excited because I read that. Here's the thing. I haven't read that specific volume. The High King I've read multiple times. The fifth book is amazing. And hopefully, fingers crossed, this is not, because I'm not being paid to say this, but Disney, literally, you can get the rights to the Prydain Chronicles again and make your own, pretty much have your own version of Lord of the Rings, because that's how epic of a scale this story is. And the plot twists and the magic, the fantastical creatures, the heroes, the villains. You could totally do it, Disney. Either that or make it a Prime series. The Prydain Chronicles, The Book of Three, Black Cauldron, Castle of Llyr, Taran the Wanderer, The High King. Boom. But that's my own plug. So if anybody from Disney, Amazon sees this, please let's make this show a thing. Please. Either a show on Netflix or a movie series adapting the 5 books into films, which you could conceivably adapt each book into a 2-hour, 2.5-hour movie, in my opinion. Comment down below if there is a book or a series of books that you would really love to see done in live action, or if you would like to see them animated, whether it's a film, a TV series. Write it down below. Seriously. Okay, so we are back, and Eilonwy has pulled herself together and destroyed the Book of Mona. Excuse me. On the Isle of Mona, she has destroyed the Book of Llyr, which is from her family's ancestral bloodline and household. It holds all the magical powers and enchantments of her family. And Eilonwy is going to be the most powerful sorceress in Prydain. For what I would assume for the forces of good. I'm not going to spoil anything. So, last time we were here, she was able to use the golden peladrin, her bauble, to use the magic of the book to seemingly destroy it and the castle. So we're about to find out what happens next. Chapter 19. Gwydion leapt forward. "Your power is ended, Ochren!" he cried. The livid queen staggered for an instant, then turned and fled screaming from the great hall. Taran raced to Eilonwy's side and, heedless of the flames, struggled to raise the girl's limp body. Gwydion sped to overtake Ochren. The bard followed them, his sword drawn. Mag had vanished. Gurgi and Prince Rune hastened to aid Taran. Within moments, Fflewddur returned. His face was ashen. "The spider tries to drown us," he shouted. "Mag has opened the gates to the sea." As the bard called out, Taran heard a thunder of surf. Caer Calor trembled, shouldering the unconscious Eilonwy. He stumbled through a ruined casement. Caw circled frantically above the towers. Fflewddur was urging the companions toward the portals, where they might hope to gain the boat. Taran followed him, only to see in despair the great iron-bound gates nearly ripped from their hinges by the pounding water. Shattered, they had swung inward, and the foaming tide rushed upon the island like a ravening beast. Beyond the walls, at the crest of a driving wave, rode Ochren's vessel, mast askew and sails flapping. The surviving warriors clung to the sides of the tossing craft and fought to climb aboard. At the bow stood Mag, his face contorted with hate, shaking his fist at the crumbling fortress. The wreckage of Gwydion's boat spun in the flood, and Taran knew all means of escape were shattered with it. The outer walls crumbled under the first impact of the sea. Blocks of stone shuddered and split away. The towers of Caer Calor swayed, and the ground reeled under Taran's feet. Gwydion's voice rang above the tumult. "Save yourselves! Caer Calor is destroyed! Jump clear of the walls, or they will crush you!" Taran saw that the Prince of Dawn had clambered to the highest rocks of the embankment to which Ockran had fled. There Gwydion strove to lead her from the collapsing stones, but she struck at him and clawed his face. Her shrieks and curses pierced the rumble of onrushing waves. Gwydion faltered and fell as the embankment gave way. The last barrier of ruined wall toppled. A hissing sheet of water blotted out the sky. Taran clasped Eilonwy to him. The flood swept them away and bore them under. Salt foam choked him, and the merciless buffeting of the tide nearly tore the unconscious girl from his arms. He struggled upward, while the island split and sank in a whirlpool that clutched him. Gripping Eilonwy, Taran fought clear of the whirlpool, only to fall prey to breakers tossing him like wild stallions. He spun to the trough of the waves, while the sea pounded strength and breath from him. Still he was able to hope, for it seemed the white-crested breakers were bearing him and his frail burden closer to shore. Dizzied and half-blinded by the green-black waves, Taran caught a confused glimpse of beach and shallow surf. He struck out weakly with his free arm, but in his last effort his failing body betrayed him, and he tumbled into darkness. Taran awoke under a gray sky. The roaring in his ears was not the surf. Two enormous yellow eyes peered into his own. The roaring grew louder. Hot breath was on his face. As Taran's sight cleared, he saw sharp teeth and a pair of tufted ears. He realized in confusion that he was lying flat on his back, and Lion was standing over him with one huge padded paw on his chest. He cried out in alarm and struggled to free himself. "Hello, hello!" "Hello, hello!" Prince Rune was now bending over him, a wide grin on his round face. Beside him was Fflewddur the bard. Like Rune was soaked and bedraggled, and the strands of dripping seaweed hung from his yellow hair. "Steady now," said Fflewddur. "Lion means you no harm. She only wants to be friendly, though sometimes she has odd ways of showing it." He patted the cat's great head and scratched under her mighty jaws. "Come, Lion," he coaxed. "There's a good girl. Don't stand on my friend. He's not up to it yet. Behave yourself, and I'll play you a tune as soon as my harp strings dry." Fflewddur turned once more to Taran. "We have to thank Lion for a great deal. Everything, in fact. She fished us all out of the surf after the sea had washed us up. If she hadn't, I'm afraid we should still be there." "It was really surprising," put in Prince Rune. "I thought for certain I'd have drowned, and the curious thing was I couldn't notice any difference." "I did have a start when I came to my senses with Lion sitting beside me," said Fflewddur. "She had my harp between her paws, as though she couldn't wait for me to wake up and begin again. The creature is mad about my music. That's why she tracked us all the way here. And great Beeler, and I'm glad she did. But I think she's finally understood there's a time and place for everything. She's really been quite gentle," he added as Lion began to rub her head against him with such vigor the bard could hardly keep his balance. "Where are the others?" Taran interrupted anxiously. "Ka, I fear, is nowhere to be found. Gurgi's gone looking for driftwood to build a fire," replied the bard. "Poor creature is still terrified of Lion, but he'll get used to her. I've grown quite fond of her myself. It's not often one finds such a good listener, and I think I shall keep her. Or," he added while Lion nuzzled her whiskers on his neck and gripped the bard with her powerful paws, "perhaps I should put it the other way around." "What of Eilonwy, of Gwydion?" Taran pressed. The bard's glance fell. "Yes, well," he murmured, "they're here. Gwydion has done all he can." With mounting anxiety, Taran rose unsteadily to his feet. In the lee of a tumble of rock, Gwydion knelt beside two forms. Taran stumbled against the beach. Gwydion looked up at him, his face filled with concern. "Eilonwy lives," he said, answering the question in Taran's eyes. "More than that I cannot say. This much I know. Ockran no longer holds her." "Ockran? Ockran is dead, then?" Taran asked. He stared at the black-shrouded figure. "Ockran, too, lives," answered Gwydion. "Though long she hung between life and death, but her power is broken now. This is the answer to the riddle, yet I do not know it until I stood before her in the great hall. At first I was not certain, when I understood that she would surely let herself go down to death before giving up Eilonwy. I knew she had lost command of all but the least of her own enchantments. I read it in her eyes and in her voice. Her day had begun to wane from the moment she had broken with the Lord of Anuven. The spells of Kerkalor were her last hope. Now they are gone, and Kerkalor lies at the bottom of the sea, Gwydion added. We need fear Okrén no longer. I fear her still, Taran said, and I shall not forget Kerkalor. Okrén spoke the truth to me, he went on quietly. I had not the strength to listen to her any longer. I feared I would tell the hiding place of the Peladrin, and I hoped you would slay me before I did. Yet, Taran added, puzzled, it was you yourself who spoke. It was a risk that had to be taken, Gwydion replied. I had suspected something of the nature of the bauble, as it alone could reveal the spells, so it alone could destroy them. Only then could Eilonwy be free, and at what cost to herself, I cannot be sure. Alas, she has suffered deeply and grievously, perhaps too much. Dare we waken her? Taran whispered. Touch her not, said Gwydion. She must waken of herself. We can only wait and hope. Taran bowed his head. I would have given my life to keep her from harm, and I would have given now to spare her this. He smiled bitterly. Okrén asked what shall be the lot of an assistant pigkeeper. It is a question I have often asked myself. Excuse me. I see now the life of an assistant pigkeeper is of little use or import. Even to offer it for someone else is of no avail. Prince Rurun would gainsay you, Gwydion answered. Without you, he would have wandered lost and in mortal peril. I swore an oath to King Rutlam, Taran replied. I did not break it. And had you not sworn an oath, Gwydion asked, would you not have done the same? Taran was silent for a while. Then he nodded. Yes, I believe I would. It was more than my oath that bound me. He needed my help as I needed his. He turned to Gwydion. I remember, too, when a prince of Dawn aided a foolish assistant pigkeeper. Is it not fitting now for the pigkeeper to aid a prince? Whether it be prince or pigkeeper, said Gwydion, such is the way of a man. The destinies of men are woven one with the other, and you can turn aside from them no more than you can turn aside from your own. And you, Lord Gwydion, came Okren's voice, you have put a cruel destiny upon me. The black-cloaked figure had risen. Okrén clung to the rocks to bear herself up. Her face, half-hooded, was drawn and haggard, and her lips were pale. Death would have been a kindness. Why did you deny it to me? Taran shrank back as the once haughty queen raised her head. For an instant he saw her eyes flame again with pride and fury. You have destroyed me, Gwydion, she cried. Do you hope to see me grovel at your feet? Are my powers indeed stripped away? Okrén laughed harshly. One last remains to me. It was then Taran saw she held a weathered branch of driftwood. She lifted it high, and Taran gasped as in her hands it blurred and shimmered. Suddenly in its place was a dagger. With a shout of triumph, Okrén plunged it toward her own chest. Gwydion sprang to her and seized her wrist. Okrén fought against him as he tore the blade from her grasp. Once more the dagger became driftwood, which Gwydion snapped in two and cast away. Okrén fell sobbing to the sand. Your enchantments have ever been the enchantments of death, said Gwydion. He knelt and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Seek life, Okrén. No life remains to me but that of an outcast, cried Okrén, turning from him. Leave me to myself. Gwydion nodded. Find your own path, Okrén, he said softly. Should it lead you to Caer Dallben, know this. Dallben will not turn you away. The sky had grown heavy with clouds, and though it was little past midday, the high crags rising at the shore seemed purple with dusk. Gurgi had built a fire of driftwood, and the companion sat silently near the sleeping Eilonwy. Farther down the beach, Ocaran, muffled in her cloak, crouched alone and unmoving. For all that morning Taran had not left Eilonwy's side, fearful she might never waken, fearful too that she might waken as a stranger to him still. He did not rest from his weary vigil. Gwydion himself could not foretell how long-lasting was the harm that had been done to her. "Do not lose heart," Gwydion said. "It is good that she sleeps, and more healing to her spirit than any potion I could give her." Eilonwy stirred restlessly. Taran started up. Gwydion put a hand on his arm and gently drew him back. Eilonwy's eyelids fluttered. Gwydion, his face grave, watched closely as her eyes opened and she slowly raised her head. And that is where we will end for today. So I will be back tomorrow evening to finish out this story after we read a series of unfortunate events on Instagram. But as always, I love you and I appreciate you all, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.